All right, we're doing something a little different here on Thompson to Clark. The first face that you see right there is not Brad Evans. That is Brian Gonzales, who on this show is just known as Hot Take Bri. Brian went to the Fanfest over the weekend, and so we're pre-recording with Brian because he's got some stuff to do today, and then Brad will join right after. But okay, so the Fanfest is a very I can't wait for baseball fan type of event. What made you want to go to the Fan Fest?
I live like 5 minutes away from it. I was like, if it's free entry to Oracle Park and I just get to, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. But when I got there, it was like, I could go on the field if I wanted to. I can go in the locker room if I wanted to. I can go in the dugout if I wanted to. I had the full park to just
Yeah.
walk around and like just hang out. And I had nothing else to do for my Saturday. And I was like, that's great. That's exactly what I went into the media room. Like,
Oh, you did? I've never even
yeah,
seen that before.
it's not as cool as you'd think.
That's kind of reminds me like when you guys were kids and we would go to the park early. You guys just run around the whole park because there was nobody
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And that's it. We just had full access to go wherever we wanted.
Okay, so Fan Fest. I think the whole key to the Fan Fest is if you have a good time, then you probably go again, or maybe not every year, but you're open to going. Was it fun enough? Was it entertaining enough for you to go like, "Oh yeah, next year if I don't have anything to do, I'll go again."
Yeah, I'm not like putting it on my calendar though, you know. Like it's definitely like if I see the ad pop up and I have nothing to do, like I'd probably go for it. The one thing though is that it was raining and my initial one of the reasons I wanted to go were to see if I would be able to like see some of like the beat writers for the Giants and try to like make a connection for like my podcast.
Uh-huh.
And that didn't happen because it was raining and I just didn't feel like, wanted to like go out in the rain too much, I guess, because a lot of people were on the field still when it was
Yeah,
raining. I was like, how are
yeah.
you guys doing this? Um, but I mean, I would, that was cool. I could get why people are like, oh, that's kind of lame. And like the whole fan fest, like I could totally see that from that perspective, but it's like, damn, I live 5 minutes away. I can go into Oracle Park for free. Like, I don't see why I wouldn't.
So some of the fans who are a little frustrated with what happened in the off season, they were sort of hope. I was just watching on Twitter, so this may not be exactly what was going on, but I sort of was seeing folks like wanting no one to show up, like to show the Giants, like we're mad at you guys. Like you guys did not have a great offseason here, and we're not going to show up. But then you said it was also raining, so I wonder, did you feel like it was was it packed? Was it not packed? Was
I
it
think
as many people as you expected? Less?
honestly, like, I mean, I didn't know what to expect whatsoever. And it definitely was a little more packed when we got there. I think it started at 10. We got there at about noon. So it was already
Mhm.
like halfway through, a little more packed. And then as it started to die down, it was like kind of a little more ghost towny. And there
Yeah.
was still like more interviews to go. Like the Rogers twins hadn't gone up on stage yet to do their interview, and people were already like pretty much gone. Um, I get, yeah, again, I get why people don't want to go and show it to them, show them your frustration by not attending the free event. I get it, but for me, I gave them the pass on the Correa in my head. I already gave them the pass. What was cool though is that um on the third deck, like I'm not gonna. There's people standing in line to get autographs and get
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah.
I didn't know what they were standing in line for, and then like as I get closer to the front of the line, like me and my girlfriend were just exploring, and I was like, okay, I see why they're in line. But like some of the players, like, we have a guy named Scott Alexander?
Yes, he's a relief pitcher.
Didn't know that. Like, there's people waiting an hour in line to see him.
Well,
That was crazy.
this is the problem with Farhan's Giants, right? He trades for a lot of these guys who are maybe a little under the radar, and then sometimes they don't even stick around for a week, and then they're gone again. But sometimes he stashes them, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I remember when we signed this guy a year ago. He's finally
Yeah,
playing, so
I
that's
get
kind
it.
of the deal.
It's not like out of all the three sports, like baseball is definitely the least like individual star power
At
in
least,
terms of
yeah, in
like
this area for sure.
even even like your just your recognition worldwide. There's not as many baseball household names in this generation. So although like it's frustrating when we don't get stars, it's like what Houston just won. Like I'd be surprised if your common person can name more than one Houston Astros.
You think like Altuve and like that's it?
Altuve is it. It's it. Yeah. Verlander, maybe. Is he even still on
Verlander.
that team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's
So
not on the team anymore.
exactly. So like, yeah, and even on the Braves side, like I doubt 80% of Americans know who Acuna is. You know?
Yeah. So was there a particular fan favorite? Like in the past, like when I've gone, everyone wants to see Buster.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see Crawford. Belt is kind of snuggly. He's kind of in there. But Bochy as well. Like everyone wanted to see Bochy. Is there anybody who the fans were particularly excited to see?
Again, definitely a weird more vibe because it was raining. So like usually they had the stage set up at like home plate basically, and you can sit in the stands to watch these guys, but there one is well, to watch the interview, but there wasn't as many people in the stands because we were higher up being protected by the rain, you know,
Mhm.
like so there wasn't as much like so we got there late. So I think we missed Crawford.
Okay.
And that I'm assuming that would have been the number one person people wanted to see. The
Probably.
cool thing
Yeah.
is that, you know, you've taken me to a game once where you've just showed me like there's like this whole hidden bottom level of like
Yeah.
all this food court.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I wanted to show my girlfriend that area because I tried to get us those tickets once and I messed up and got us one row too high to not get access to that. So I was like, I wanted to show her that area. And the clubhouse is down there too.
Uh-huh.
And what I didn't realize is that like we picked like a time to go. We were just gonna go there at the food court and then leave all in one swoop. And we were down there, and then all the players start coming out. Like
Yep.
Luis
Yeah.
Gonzalez just walks in front of me. I'm like, oh,
He has like blonde hair or something, right?
yeah. I took a picture and I sent it to you.
Yeah.
Like all the players started walking out, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna, I guess, just start taking pictures. Kind of weird, but I'm just right here, so I might as well take pictures. And then there's always that one like adult fan who's like super into like getting the autographs
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
you know like stopping the players and like you know getting and I ran into one of those guys and he's like, dude, I've been going to this thing for like 8 years straight now and this is the one spot you want to be to get the autographs. And I was like, all right, I
The
guess
OG of
no
the
take
Fan
it.
Fest.
Yeah. But we were walking you know, there's the bar over there in the food court too, and Pavlovich was doing this like wine talk with some other guy, and they brought Jock in because
Uh-huh.
Jock's like a wine guy too, I guess.
I mean,
Like that has
it
some. I
seems
think he
like a
has
cool
some.
thing for athletes now is to be wine
I thought
guys.
he did. I thought he did something like Clay did because doesn't Clay have his own wine bottle?
I think Clay does, yeah.
I think Jock does something like that. So they brought in Jock, and like all the media was there, and I was just like front row, like okay, I guess I'll video it. And Jock's just talking about like wine and when he was on the Braves and like so uninterested. He was so uninterested, but I was like, this is
He's
cool. Everyone's just kind of walking through.
yeah, he seems kind of like that though, right? Like
Yeah,
he
he
just seems a
just
little flighty.
yeah, it just seems like, you know, he didn't seem like he wanted to like talk to anyone, you know. It seemed like a
Was there anybody who you recognize from the media there? Like you mentioned Pavlovich. He's been around long enough to where I think, a lot of fans would go, "Oh, I know who that is. He's on
yeah. He's on
CNBC before
TV.
or I'm sorry, NBC Sports Bay Area, whatever."
Yeah.
But because I don't know if there was any other media folks there or were any of the broadcasters there?
So the Chronicle,
Susan Slusser.
Susan Slusser was there. I was trying to look for her, but I don't know what she looks like because she doesn't have a Twitter profile picture. It's
Yeah.
just the guild thing.
Yeah.
So I looked her up, and then I thought I maybe saw her, but it was more. I didn't see like Cole Kuiper. I just saw Pavlovich. I was looking for Bags and Brisbee. I don't think they were there though.
Yeah.
And then there was like a couple other like there's some younger Giants beat writers that I follow on Twitter that I was kind of keeping an eye out for. Like there's this
Mhm.
Evan kid, like Evan Wobeck or something.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
there's
yeah.
like this
Yeah.
Danny Emmerman, I think is the name. And
Mhm.
then there's Steven Rossetto or something.
Yeah, yeah.
I should know these names.
He's on Twitter. I see him on Twitter.
Yeah, I just hit up him to be on the podcast, so I should know his name.
Well, hope he
But
doesn't watch this.
yeah, I hope he doesn't watch this. Sorry, Steven. Yeah, damn. But it was like, yeah, everyone was it was cool. I don't regret it.
It's the thing that is usually cool about the Fan Fest is the Giant season ends, fans are mad, the off season happens, fans are usually still mad, But then you get like that break, you get that month of January to go like, oh, spring training's kind of around the corner. And then you just automatically you get excited again. And so that I think it's a fun event. I would imagine that it was probably one of the least attended ones just because,
Yeah, the
no
10 to
Buster,
12K
no Buster, no belt,
and raining.
and raining and, disappointment with the off
Yeah.
season. But was Kapler hanging out there?
Okay, so that was a cool one I saw was big line for this Scott Alexander guy who I
Yeah.
just saw for the first time in my life. And then there was another line on the third deck. I was like, where does this one lead to? And I kind of just like followed it up to the front. I wasn't like going to stand in line and get a photo. I just want to see who it was. First team all handsome, Dave Kapler.
He's young. He's younger than me.
That's crazy. Yeah,
I
he
think he's
looks like that guy. That guy's first team all handsome.
yeah. What? So, Danielle, was she at all interested? Because I know that that's not really her thing, but I'm sure just kind of going, getting food, and hanging out was probably fine. But what did she think of the whole thing?
That she thought it was cool. I think you just need to cap it. You need to cap the
Yeah.
time we're
Yeah.
there for. Like it's like, being in the dugout, like super cool, right? But only for like 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Being in the dugout, super cool, maybe for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just need to. I mean, we got food and we just got kind of hung out and sat on. I think the idea of just like access and like, if I was like a child, like, oh,
You get to
like
run
that
on
would
the
have been
field.
so
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think even like in my early 20s is still like. I think the idea of just being able to go in this restricted place that I've been to my whole life with no restrictions
Mhm.
was like really cool.
Yeah. All right, sweet. I know you're gonna go to the Warriors game, so you'll have some in-person information for the death lineup this weekend.
Yeah.
We're gonna try and get Ben Cruz on. We'll do 3-man pod trade deadline version of the death lineup. So, all right, thanks for doing this. I know you're in a rush, but you had a few minutes, so I wanted to get your thoughts on the whole Fanfest. All right, so thanks to Bri, and we're gonna bring on Brad right now. Brad, I think that's the first show that we've ever done where you were not in the open. You weren't the opening segment of the show.
Well, I've been on vacation before, though, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's
yeah,
true.
but not bringing me in. I have cats trying to break into my room. I don't know. I haven't been home all day. I get home, I get ready for the show, and they're like, "Pet me, come in."
Yeah. So there is a little bit of news to talk about. And I guess that'll be our first segment, which is talking about the news having to do with spring training. And I told you this, but I think we had talked about my plans of trying to go to the World Baseball Classic in Arizona, and so it didn't work out. Actually, it turns out that the day that I wanted to go, I'm a coach. I'm helping coach the Twins, my stepsons, their basketball team, and it turns out that that's the last game of the season. Was the day that I wanted to go to the WBC. So instead, I looked for spring training opportunities, and so instead. We're gonna go to see. I think it's the Cubs, the Giants, and the Cubs on a Saturday. And you know what I'm gonna do? And the people probably think I'm just nutty for doing this, but I kind of want to drive to Arizona.
It's not a bad drive. I mean, I'm talking about coming from Reno. So driving through Nevada, then you go through Vegas and you pop into Arizona. It's really not bad. Lots of yucca plants. If you're into that kind, we love the yuccas. So
there is a stretch. There is a stretch in the drive where you just see the horizon and it's the desert and it just looks like the same thing for like 3 straight hours. Like you don't know if you're moving or not.
That's all of Nevada. That's our drive to Vegas. You're just driving and you see sweeping mountains that go up each side, and you're just driving down basically a straight desert highway. It's fun though, because if you like to catch up on podcasts, and comedy specials and all that good stuff, books on tape, that's the way to go.
Yeah, no, it's so the reason, and I'll tell you the reason why I thought about driving. Well, for one, I looked at the flights, and I was like, gosh, like who in their right mind would pay $600 to fly to Arizona? Like it's just so ridiculous. Like, and it's just, not that I'm like, we can't afford, and like, obviously I can afford to do that. Not like we fly out, every other week or anything. It's kind of a rare thing for us, but it was just like in my heart, I was like, no, like there's no way. I can't. I just cannot do this. Like it's just
That's
not
a lot of money.
It's not in the will to pay that much money to just hop on a flight for an hour.
Yeah.
And so so instead I thought, I haven't done that drive in a while. And the thing that I really like about driving long distance especially is I'm in complete control of the radio.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like,
it depends on who you're driving with.
it's like, oh, I don't have to talk to anybody. I can listen to whatever I want, whether it's music, whether it's podcasts, whether it's books on tape. And like that just was attractive to me. Is, back in the day when I used to make, because I don't really commute to work anymore, which is the other thing.
Yeah.
I would listen to lots of podcasts and I would make sure that I, caught up on everything. But I haven't, because I haven't had to commute to work very much, maybe 5 times in the last 2 years. And so there's this thing where you kind of throw something on and you're driving, and you're doing a lot of thinking, and you're kind of like, you got a project that you've been thinking about, and you like just the blueprint is laid out by the time your drive is done. And so that's kind of what I want to do. It's like, oh, I want to make sure that I do some thinking on these drives, and I think it'll be fun. But then by the time I drive back, I'm just gonna be like, oh my God, why did I decide to drive? Because I'm only going to be there for a few days. So
that's the hardest part. So we're making a trip to Disneyland twice in March, and we're driving down. Going to be there for 4 days for dance competition. Drive home. Be home for about 13 days, 12 days. Driving back.
Yep.
Doing our week-long spring break trip. And then driving home. So we're going to swap cars. So you take one car one time, put all the miles on that one, take the other car the next time. The hardest part I have with long distance trips is the concentration.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you're especially on single lane roads, a lot of single lane roads from here to LA and in Reno, and from Reno to Vegas, lots of single lane roads. So it's that concentration level of watching the cars coming towards you on the other side of the lane, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, so I don't have to quickly react.
Yeah, zoning out.
Exactly. The nice thing about the 2 cars that we have now, we have 2 Subarus, and they have a feature in there that kind of auto steers.
Okay.
So when you're cruising on cruise control, you can hit that auto steer, and all your little micro transactions and actions that you're making with your hands to just kind of keep the wheel straight, it does it for you with the eyesight in the Subarus. I'm not trying to sell anybody a Subaru here. I'm just saying that's a feature that they have. So that kind of helps on the long trips, because I could put on adaptive cruise control, and that has helped a lot with the arm fatigue, driving 8-9 hours and whatnot. So I feel you. It's a commitment. And like you said, sometimes you get about 4 hours in and you go, okay, I'm only halfway there. And then you enjoy your time there. But usually that last day you're thinking, I got to get up and drive tomorrow.
So the way that I'm going to stay focused is I have a lot of Questlove Supreme podcasts. So he's talking to lots of historical musicians and Greg Fillinganes and like these early hip hop stars and
nice.
So lots of just music history stuff, which I absolutely love. And I'm listening.
Is this on Apple? Is that on Apple? Can I find this on Apple?
It's what is he? I think it's an
iHeart Supreme.
Yeah, iHeart Radio maybe is the one who does it. But yeah, you can find it on Apple Podcasts.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, he just did.
I have added it.
He did Springsteen recently. I'm listening to. So I'm actually backed up to early last year.
Okay.
There's a double back-to-back Hall and Oates that he did.
Oh,
So
cool.
each of them separately. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the book, the Audible book that I have, which is on the history of Motown, which I told you about yesterday. And then there's some other there's some other Audible books that I'm so far behind on that I switched the Audible credits from monthly to every other month, and I still have like 2 that I haven't used. So
Oh,
I need to get in. I'm gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna go through some stuff that on that drive. But that drive still it's still a good a little bit over a month away. But it was just in my mind. Okay, here's what we're gonna talk about the Giantsy news part of the show here. The Giants non-roster invitee to spring training list came out today. And so I wanted you to check out the names because I know you're pretty busy today, so that you may not have been able to look at this before. But
I took a peek. I did take a peek. I recognize a lot of these names. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. And so I'm just kind of interested in who you are going to keep an eye on because there are some flashy prospects on this list that I am excited to kind of see. Now, these guys are not going to stick around for very long. They're going to do their thing, and then they're going to go to their camps and such. But because the name that sticks out, obviously, is Kyle Harrison. We've been talking about this guy all year long. The other one that kind of excited me, though, was outfielder Vaughn Brown. They're kind of, I think this is kind of like okay, we see what you did last year. Now we're going to give you another challenge here and let's see what you got. I'm very excited to see that. I want to see, I just kind of want to see him in person because I missed him when he was at San Jose.
Yeah. And I think what the Giants do with their non-roster invitees. So if you're not familiar with non-roster invitees, there are people who are not on the 40-man roster. Because if you're on the 40-man roster, you can go to spring training. It's kind of a free trip. But if you're a non-roster invitee, it's because you're not on the 40-man, but you have a minor league deal, or you are in an upper kind of older upper minor league player. And kind of what the Giants do is it's almost like a reward system. What I've noticed over the last few years, like you said, you had a good year last year in the minors. So, hey, come on up. Take some at bats, maybe get 10 at bats, face some major league pitching, see what it's like, get a taste, enjoy it, and then, head on back to minor league camp because minor league camp always opens later, right? Later than major league camp. So you kind of push them but they're still in the facility. They're still around the area because minor league camp kind of bleeds over in Arizona too, which is really cool. I like the Casey Schmidt name on there. That's exciting.
That's another great one.
We've heard so much about the defense. So that's what I want to see. I want to see him play the field, actually more than hit. I want to see him just be a vacuum over at third base. That's exciting. RJ Dabovich, flamethrower, excited to see him. Patrick Bailey, I'm also excited to see. Austin Wynns is going to be there. We know we have Roberto Perez now, as well as Joey Bart. So Roberto Perez is, I think Perez, isn't he on? There he is on the list also. He's also on a minor league deal, so he'll be there as a non-roster invitee. So you kind of have this open battle to win that backup catcher position. I'm assuming the Giants are still looking at Joey Bart as the starting catcher, but as we know, as catchers go with the Giants, it could very easily be an 80 game. But I mean, as you know, we'd love to see Joey Bart play 130 games, 140 games.
Yeah, because if he's playing 130 games, then that means he's hitting.
Yeah, exactly. That means his pop is there. He's hitting. He's not striking out 3 or 4 times a game, because if that's happening, then we've got some issues. Because then you look at the non-roster invitees, because when you look at the active roster, I had the active roster up here. Catchers, you've got Joey Bart.
One, right?
That's your active roster for catchers. So Brett Arbach, Patrick Bailey, Brett Cumberland, Ricardo Genoves, Roberto Perez, and Austin Wynns are battling. It's an open battle for backup
very
catcher.
much so. You know what's interesting about that list is Auerbach, it's kind of like he can play tons of positions, and if you need a catcher in the clutch, then he can do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, Patrick Bailey's still a prospect, but he really needs to make some, make some waves here to show off that he is still someone that you should value if you're a Giants fan. The other name that was interesting was this Ronald Guzman, who he's been in he's been on teams before. Now he's trying to become a pitcher, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. He was with the Yankees and Rangers, correct?
I'm gonna look
Go
him up
back
right
and look
now.
because I mean they just signed him. I think about a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
So he was with Texas, and then he played 3 games with the Yankees last year.
Okay, so that's what it was. And so for him to come in, I like that. I mean, when you look at that list and you see two-way player, one, Ronald Guzman, I go, oh, that's cool. I mean, embracing the two-way player, Reggie Crawford. I
Designation,
mean, they drafted Reggie Crawford with that in mind as well. So the Giants are definitely open to, and the Giants, they're all about flexibility in the roster, players that can play multiple positions. And now a two-way player is very embraced in Major League Baseball. So the Giants are like, yeah, let's do it. Let's bring in somebody into camp who can actually do it. So, I mean, but when you look at his offensive numbers, first year in Texas, 16 home runs, hit 235. 2019, 10 home runs, hit 219. OPS plus over 100 one time, but he only played in 26 games in 2020. So, I mean, nothing fantastic crazy on the offensive side of the two-way player designation. But, again, roster flexibility. If that's somebody who can come off the bench and hit and not take away an offensive spot on the bench, but also be a pitcher. If he's got anything on the mound, then that's good. Hey, take a look. Take a look.
Yeah.
So here he is as a non-roster invitee.
And we can do our Grant Brisbee where he says like, yeah, I'm writing about this guy, and then he can be off the team next week. Like that's also a possibility with some of these guys. Which leads me to the latest piece of news that was today, which is Stephen Piscotty, former Cardinal, former Oakland A. He got released by the A's last summer. Giants signed him to a minor league deal. He's a right-handed outfielder, and he's had pop. What he hasn't had is health success. He's been off injured of late, so they signed him to a minor league deal. He is invited to spring training. If he makes the club, I think he makes $1 million, which is nothing to sneeze at, but to a Giants payroll that is not as large as it possibly could be. Little drop in the bucket for them. But what did you think about the Piscotty signing?
I like that. He's a good dude. He, I don't know if everybody knows the story, but he played for the St. Louis Cardinals back in the day. In 2017, I believe it was, he asked for a trade to be closer to his mom. So he's an East Bay guy, grew up in the East Bay, went to Stanford, and I think he was drafted by the Dodgers at one point as well. But anyways, he ended up with the Cardinals. And his mom was diagnosed with ALS. So in 2017, he asked to be traded to the A's so he can be closer to his mom in the East Bay. She ended up unfortunately passing in 2018, but he was able to be there with her. So it just tells you the type of person he is, very, very human, and something that Giants fans can get behind. We love our players who have heart, who are close to their families, who are not just baseball players, but they have a story. And if he can make this team as a right-handed outfielder, I mean, you got Mitch Haniger and you've got Austin Slater. Those are your two right-handed outfielders. So if he could kind of squeeze his way in there if he needs to, Giants fans are going to fall in love with him. I mean, he's a Bay Area favorite already. Again, if you know the story, then you kind of know all about him and what
Yeah.
he's about. So very exciting. I kind of like it. I like the extra outfielder. I don't think we have a completely set fourth or fifth outfielder at this point, because Lamont Wade Jr. has been doing a lot of work at first base.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to be in the outfield, but he's a lefty. So that kind of takes an outfielder off the board, though. So it is kind of a little bit of an open shot at the number 4 and number 5 outfielder spot.
Grant Brisbee did his early roster prediction here. Do you want to know his outfielders to make the 26-man?
Yeah, I was going to read that article. I didn't have a chance to get to it, but I'd love to hear it.
So his 5 outfielders to make the opening day roster are obviously Jock, Mitch Haniger, and Conforto, and Yastrzemski, who's probably going to be their everyday center fielder, and then Austin Slater, who's going to probably flip-flop with Yastrzemski as their center fielder. So that's 5, but he doesn't have any other outfielders on this starting roster here.
I mean,
well, like you said, though, you said Lamont Wade. You could throw him in the outfield if need be.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw him in the outfield. Jock Peterson, not an outfielder.
Hopefully, we don't see him in the outfielder.
I mean, when you have other options, you don't necessarily need to have Jock Peterson listed as an outfielder. I think it's safe at this point in his career to just call him Big Poppy DH. Right? I mean, you don't have to say outfielder anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so let's quickly talk about what we are drinking here, because we had Brian on in the first segment. You and I are going to go a little shorter today, but still have the full hour podcast like normal, or maybe a little bit less than an hour, but that's what we always kind of shoot for, is that hour mark. So before we even get to that, in 2 different chats today, I heard the beer, is it called Pliny the Older or Pliny the Younger?
And like, so there's Pliny the Elder and there's Pliny the Younger. Yes.
Yeah, the Elder. There you go. See how much I know. Nothing at all. But like 2 different chats that I was in, there are so many people excited for this. Explain this phenomenon?
So Pliny the Elder is a Russian River, and I believe it's a double IPA. I don't want to get this wrong, because Pliny the Elder followers are a bunch who are very, very particular about their beer. Let's see. It's an Imperial IPA. So a double, it could be a double, it could be a triple, whatever you want to call it. On Beer Advocate, which is a very, very popular site, it is ranked as the number 3 Imperial IPA of all time.
Wow.
There's and ahead of it is Pliny the Younger at number 2. And the number 1 is by The Alchemist, which is out on the East Coast, I believe, and it's called Heady Topper. That is the number 1 Imperial IPA. I've had Pliny the Elder quite a few times, probably 3 or 4 times. They are now distributing outside of Russian River Brewing Company, which is in Northern California. So they're now here in Reno. I stumbled onto the fact that they were distributing here when I was at a pizza place in Tahoe. I saw it on tap. I freaked out. I was supposed to be driving home from Tahoe that day. And I said, well, Denise, guess who's driving now? It's not me. So I ordered my Pliny the Elder, had it with the pizza. It is a fantastic, piney, smooth IPA. If you like bitterness, if you like hops, it is just to die for. You've got to try it. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's not that great. I'm a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale guy.
Yeah.
That is my number 1 beer of all time. You take those hops, you magnify them, nice malt backbone, smooths out really well. Now, Pliny the Younger is released once a year. You can only get it at the brewery. You have to stand in line. They do a lottery. It's all kinds of stuff. You can go in and you can have, I think, not even a pint of it. I think you only get like a 6-ounce pour or something like that. And you can only be at the table for like a half hour and then they kick you out. And that's how big the line is, because they just want to kind of keep moving. So Pliny the Younger must be releasing soon. If people are chatting about it and talking about it, I would imagine that's what's going on. But I don't follow that part.
I'll read you the. I'll read.
Oh
you the
yeah,
text
let's
that
see
I
it.
just
Yeah.
got. All right, it says Pliny the Younger starting to hit spots around here on the hunt.
There you go. It's hard to get. I'm not even sure. That's a triple IPA. I'm not even sure, honestly, that they bottle it. I don't know. Well, it looks like they do. It looks like they do. Okay, so they do bottle it. I don't know much about Pliny the Younger. It's probably something I'll never have, but in the beer circles, it will get released. People will resell it. It'll be a ridiculous amount of money. I don't even bother with it because it's a triple. I can get a triple IPA anywhere. It's, I think one of my favorite triple IPAs is Sierra Nevada. They make an IPA called Hoptimum. And that one's fantastic. So, and that's released in the stores every year around March or April. I can go to the store. I can get a 6-pack. I don't have to worry about waiting in line and spending some ridiculous amount of money for it. But yeah, it is hunted. I'll tell you that much.
There you go. All right. So for me, my drink is very simple. Continuing to drink the bourbon that Brad said to get from Trader Joe's as the mixing bourbon. So, well, just a little bit of Coke Zero, a little bit of bourbon, Diet Coke, or Coke Zero and bourbon is it's just such an easy go-to. And what I used to use for that mix was the Jack Daniels, but I actually do like the Kentucky's Best bourbon better in the Coke than actually Jack Daniels. So good call.
Yeah, I think there's a little sweetness to it that I like. It's very smooth, oaky, but it's not overpowering. So in the mix, it kind of adds a little something to the Coke, I think, usually. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's one of my favorite mixing bourbons. I went now I gotta ask you a question though. It's 6:00 in the evening.
Yeah.
And you're having caffeine. You gonna be okay here?
I can have coffee at like 10 o'clock and fall asleep at 11 o'clock.
There you
For
go.
whatever
That's
reason. I don't know why. It doesn't affect me that much.
That's just like me. My wife, I made a coffee last night right before the Grammys, 5:00. Drank a coffee down, took about an hour to drink it before I poured a Guinness. And she goes, "Aren't you going to be up all night?" I said, "Are you kidding me?"
I know my wife's the same way. She can't, if she has coffee later than her actual morning coffee, she thinks that she's going to be staying up. I'm like, it's like 8 hours. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's it. Denise's cutoff is like 2:00. 2:00. It's 2:45. I can't have caffeine right now. I said, "No, you probably could. You'd probably be okay." But so I went. I didn't go crazy here. Speaking of IPAs, and this is probably a collector's item now because Sierra Nevada just changed the label on this.
Oh wow!
Yeah, look it up. See if you can find a picture of it. But it's really, really cool. The new label is awesome. It's got a, it's got a big hop and like a kind of a, I guess an orbit around it. And it's got
I
just submarine.
looked it up.
Yeah, so they totally changed the label. It's just kind of starting to come out in stores now. But in terms of like extra IPAs, double IPAs, Torpedo is my go-to. Can you tell I'm a fan of Sierra Nevada Brewing Company? Yeah.
That is, I would say, so I used to listen, and he doesn't even do this podcast anymore, but Stone Cold Steve Austin used to do a podcast where he talk about beer a lot. And he even went out to make his own beer. He has his own beer that's out there called Broken Skull IPA, I think.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And so he kept talking about Torpedo IPA. And you know me, I don't really drink beer. But I forgot why I was out at a thing and I needed to bring beer to something. And I was like, well, I'm just going to bring what Austin drinks. And so I actually had one. And I was like, "Oh, I sort of get it. Like, I understand why he really likes it." And then we were watching TV, and this is the problem with me and just drinking anything, is I just mostly drink for thirst. And so
Yeah.
I'm just like, we're watching TV, and so I'm like drinking this Torpedo IPA, and this is probably like 7 years ago now. And all of a sudden, I was just done with it, and I was like, "Okay, I'm still thirsty." And then I got another one,
Oh
and
no.
then at some point, I just remember like kind of falling asleep for like a half an hour watching this show and waking up and going like, "Wait, what happened?" I was like, "Oh, it was the torpedo, it was the IPA that I just drank." It kind of put me out for a half an hour there.
It's a strong one. It's let's see. Torpedo is 7.2%. And it also comes in 16-ounce cans too. So that's the other thing. If you down like anytime I go and they have Torpedo on tap, I went to a concert up in at Crystal Bay up in Tahoe, and Crystal Bay Resort, I think it was. And they had this on tap. I couldn't resist, and I had 2 of them, and it was a very fun concert. I had a good time.
uh all right. So now we're you kind of mentioned the Grammys, and we're gonna end the show with a short segment on the Grammys because we both watched it last night, and you and your family play a little game, picking the winners and such. So we'll talk about that right at the end of this show. But before we get there, just a small WBC update. So Jock is playing. Who is he playing for?
So Jock is going to be playing for Team Israel. I guess he announced it this weekend at Fanfest that he is officially playing for Team Israel, which is exciting because again, I don't have a problem with Giants players going to the WBC. I know I've seen some stuff on Twitter that you'd be crazy if you're a GM to let your pitchers go pitch in the WBC. But we did a segment on this a couple shows ago that
Yeah.
and we kind of showed, pitchers that pitched for Team USA, and I used them as an example because they won it. So they played in 8 games that year, which is the most you could play. And if you win the whole thing this year, it's 7. But there were no arm issues. There was an oblique strain by one of the pitchers, but it didn't happen until June. So it probably had absolutely nothing to do with the WBC. So to have Giants players kind of spread out amongst all the different teams, it's really cool. And so Ian Kinsler is the manager of Team Israel, and they kind of made a splash in the last WBC when they made it through the qualifying phase and actually made it out and into the elimination rounds, which was really, really neat to see. And that's a fun thing about baseball. I mean, you can go out there and you could have a really good game and you could destroy a team that's supposed to be better than you.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see Jock hit some bombs for Team Israel. I just wonder, is he going to play the outfield?
Yeah.
That's the question.
So the Czech Republic didn't they won a game to qualify, didn't they?
I believe so.
They beat
I believe
Spain
so.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So they didn't so I think they qualified. And I'm looking for the information here. I'm just trying to read up on the news because you were just talking about, anything can happen in these games. So I think they made it. But okay, so the other news.
So they're in
WBC.
Pool B. So Japan, Korea, Australia, China, and Czech Republic are in Pool B. So Czech Republic is another one. So they're kind of like the Israel of what 5 years ago now was the last time that we had a tournament. Nicaragua also in Pool D, another kind of sneak in team. Italy's been hanging around in baseball for the last couple of tournaments as well. They're in Pool A with Chinese Taipei, Netherlands, Cuba, and Panama. So that it's just fun. I mean, it's a really fun tournament. I keep trying to get people excited for it. Everybody's like, the WB what?
That's
The
our
white blood
goal.
count. When you look up WBC, the first thing that comes up is like 20 things for white blood count. So make sure you look up WC baseball when you go into Google.
So
but yeah, it's going to be fun.
The other piece of World Baseball Classic news that just came out today is that our favorite non-giant, Carlos Correa,
one-time giant,
opts out of the World Baseball Classic, and that's fine. He's got stuff going on. The reason is what I am interested in here. So you and I know he's got something going on with his ankle that made teams say, hey, we'll pay you for 4 or 5 years. We're not paying you for 13 years.
Yeah.
So the Twins today announced that Carlos Correa will not be on the roster of Team Puerto Rico for the upcoming World Baseball Classic in March, due not to any sort of ankle injuries or any sort of expectations that he's 100% healthy come April, due to the expected due date of his second child. Now, I'm not saying that is a bad reason at all to pull out of the World Baseball Classic. It is absolutely a good reason. Second son, going to be named Kenzo, is about a month away. I still call bullshit.
I mean, that's where our mind went, right?
Yeah.
First time we heard Carlos Correa not participating in the WBC. Huh. Interesting. I wonder what's going on.
And so
he's having another baby.
It can very well partially be about his child. I sense that is the cover to the Twins going like, hey, we want to just make sure that we're conservative about this, because if you possibly get hurt playing this thing, we're going to be the laughing stock of baseball for signing you to this contract, right? We don't want any bad karma coming from this thing. Take time off, be with your kid, and let's just make sure that you're healthy come opening day. That's what I sense. Now, I may read the Twins beat writers in the next couple of days going like, no, really, like this was, you kind of know the reason why I call BS. How long have they known the due date for this child?
Yeah.
Since the very beginning?
Since pretty much since it's been 9 months.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to get at? Yeah, it's been 9 months.
So that's why I call BS on it.
Yeah. But also, to be fair, I'll take the other side for a second.
Yeah.
To be fair, the official rosters are not even announced yet. These are all just kind of commitments. Yeah. So, he had a chance to like think about it, not think about it, think about it. And it was probably an assumption because he played in the last one that Carlos Correa, one of the best players in baseball, is going to play in this. So I'll just be fair on that. They haven't announced the rosters yet. So, but still, like you said, they could have said it a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not dissing him in any way at all. Like, I'm a fan, even though it didn't work out. I still want to see him play baseball. And they're going to be a fantastic team in this tournament. So that's the other reason why you kind of want to see him play. But if you're Team USA, you're like, him not being on that team, maybe a little bit better for us.
Yeah.
All right. So we mentioned just a couple minutes ago that we are going to talk about the Grammys. And since, Bri came on in the first segment, then we went to the 40-man, then we went to WBC. I think, we got a few minutes here to talk about the biggest night in music every single year with the Grammys. Is this a thing that is this a show that you watch every year?
I have watched the Grammys, honestly, since I can remember. I just love music. I love all genres of music. There are artists last night that I discovered, not from their performances, because again, who performs at the Grammys nowadays, you already know. it's not a surprise. It's not somebody you haven't heard of. But the winner of the new artist, best new artist category. Let's see if I can remember her name. I'm terrible when I just first learn a person. Samara Joy.
Yeah.
Samara Joy. She is a jazz singer. And when she was walking up to accept the award, I heard in the background, I go, well, she sounds a lot like Billie Holiday. And I'm a huge jazz fan and jazz singing fan. So I looked her up and I played her album last night after the Grammys. I go, oh, this is really good stuff. So I enjoy the Grammys in terms of nowadays more than, I'll go to the website when they're announced, when the nominees are announced. I'll kind of go through the categories and go, okay, I know this. And then every year we do a poll. So the last 5 years, since the kids are old enough, we've been doing a pool, a kind of a Grammy pool. It's no money or anything like that. But I go through and I pick about 7 or 8 categories that I think are going to be shown on the show, because that's the other trick. You have to pick the ones that you think that they're going to do on the show. And I asked you to join us this year because I know you're a music fan.
I was excited.
I spared you by not putting the country one on. I would have, by the way, I would have won it because it was Willie Nelson, and I would have picked Willie Nelson just because I love Willie Nelson. It's a country album of the year. I would have picked Willie, and both my kids, when he won, I said, I would have gotten that. And they're like, they honestly said, we probably would have picked him too, only because we know him from you and we don't know the other country artists. So that's how that would have gone. So I spared you by not putting that one on there.
Well, I would have probably just picked Willie as well.
Because you know him, yeah.
Because I know him. And when that award was up, we watched about the first, because that was a long show. That was a 4-hour show. We watched about, I would say, 2 hours. It was about an hour and a half. And then we wanted to get to the hip hop, the 50th anniversary of hip hop presentation. And so I skipped ahead a little bit just to see that before everyone had to go to bed. And so I think I would have picked Willie because I asked Crystal, who she is a country fan and she knew the majority of the artists, but she didn't know any of the new stuff. But I was like, yeah, do you know that person? You know that person? Like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I still would pick Willie, and he won. And then he wasn't there because I guess he's got like some health stuff or something going on, right?
Yeah, and he's almost 90, and he's about to go on like a little. He tours in spurts, like 4 or 5 shows, month off, 4 or 5 shows, month off, and in about 2 or 3 weeks, he's starting a small little mini tour in Florida. So I'm sure he was just like, got to rest, got to get ready. 90 years old.
Yeah, totally.
Had COVID.
We want Willie to live for a long time.
Oh gosh, yeah, Willie's, because of the top of the like. Of the Highwaymen, I believe him and Chris Christopherson. I
saw Chris Christopherson not that long ago.
Okay, I was going to say I don't want to kill him off, but I think he's still around. He's still with us.
So Chris Christopherson, he has a son who I don't think he is doing any wrestling anymore, but he was a local independent pro wrestler for the independent organization called APW. It's been around for a long time. And he got called to work for the WWE's like minor leagues. It's called NXT. It's kind of like where they bring all these young talent and then they kind of try and get them ready for the main roster. He did not make the main roster, so he came back to APW, and he was at a show, and his pops just rolled through. I was like, oh, I know who that guy is.
Yeah, wow. He's really cool. But yeah, of the Highwaymen, so you've got Chris Christopherson, you've got Willie Nelson, you've got Johnny Cash, and you've got Waylon Jennings. That's your Highwaymen. Willie and Chris are left. But like Merle Haggard's gone. Yeah. George Jones is gone. So all of my heroes growing up, those were my country heroes. My parents would play them in the house all the time. So to see Willie on there, and when that album dropped, I want to say it was July or August, but when that album dropped, it dropped on the same day as the Bonnie Raitt album. So that week, I went back and forth between those 2 albums and just went crazy because I thought, I got a new Bonnie Raitt, I've got a new Willie Nelson album. I don't need anything else this year, so I was very happy. But it was a fun show. I know a lot of people rail on it. I
Yeah.
also follow a lot of like, Twitter guys who are rock DJs on
Yeah.
XM and metal DJs. They're very angry every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
I tuned in to watch the metal categories and I couldn't find them. It's like, yeah, I know, because nobody's gonna watch that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
and the same thing with jazz. So I'm a jazz guy. Where was the jazz ensemble? Where was Wynton Marsalis? He was
Mhm.
there in the morning accepting his awards because they're not going to put Wynton Marsalis
On the TV
on.
show.
They're not
Yeah.
going to, yeah, exactly. So
All right. What did you think? So you're a very open-minded person when it comes to music. Like, you're not someone who's
Yes.
like, oh, that's trash. Like you're not
no,
that guy.
100%. I will give it a shot. If I hate it, I'll tell you I hate it, but I'll give it a shot. I'll even give it 2 or 3 shots before I tell you I hate it.
You also have 2 teenage daughters.
Hmm?
So what is your take on Harry Styles?
The guy is uber talented. So the kids were super into One Direction when they were younger. And there are some great One Direction songs. And I was never a pop guy. I used to rail against it back in the day. But then when the kids came along and they started listening to this stuff, I started listening to the production of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this is some brilliant production, writing, just everything put together. Harry Styles is a great singer. I didn't give him much credit for this album. I don't think I listened to this album other than the couple of songs. Not a fan of, what is it, Watermelon Sugar? That song kind of gets in your ear hole and drives you a little bit nuts. The what's the other song he's got? As It Was.
Yeah, the Aha sample, with the Take on Me sample.
Yeah, exactly. Catchy tune. Really
Yeah.
enjoy that one. I don't think I've listened to the rest of his album, but I give him credit. I mean, I don't know if it was album of the year.
Yeah, he beat some heavy hitters, man. There's a backlash. There's a when is Beyonce going to get her flowers backlash to the Grammys here?
Yeah, and I really thought the way the night was going and how weird some of the awards went out, I go, here it is, man. Beyonce's not going to win it. Kendrick Lamar's not going to win it. And there's going to be an uproar. And it's probably going to be, I thought, I was starting to lean towards the end of the night. I go, it's going to be Brandy Carlisle.
Oh, you thought, okay.
Because I thought, here you go. It's going to be, we kind of led you this way. And all of a sudden, here's a rock album. Here's a folky rock Americana album. Brandy Carlisle takes it. So I was a little bit shocked when it was Harry Styles. Everybody was too.
I was pretty shocked. Like I was leaning towards, if it's not Beyonce, I was thinking, Adele might sneak this thing out. She's like kind of been a little bit under the radar. She did win, I think, pop vocal, and like The Rock presented the award, and she'd never met The Rock,
cool.
and Trevor Noah kind of set that up. And I was just looking at poor Rich Paul, her boyfriend. So I don't know if you know who Rich Paul is, but Rich Paul,
isn't he a fighter?
No, Rich Paul runs the agency that a lot of the NBA players are part of. It's technically LeBron's agency, but LeBron is a player, so he can't really be involved in that part of it. So it's Rich Paul who runs the agency. Like he's like a kind of a self-made agent, and now he's like agent to like a lot of big players. So yeah, so they're kind of a little bit of a power couple, but she's definitely more famous than he is, though. He does very well for himself, and I just looked at him when The Rock comes over, and she's kind of like excited to meet him. I was like, oh man,
he's like,
The Rock. I have a feeling The Rock's done this to a lot of dudes before, Rich.
At least The Rock had his wife with him.
Yeah.
So, at least that happened.
I don't know if that necessarily stops The Rock, but I hope so.
No.
At 50 years old, I hope that The Rock has tamed it down a little bit.
I'm sure he has. I think he just likes to walk around and show everybody I'm The Rock. You know, because
Exactly.
everybody, you know what? I'm not a wrestling guy. I'm not I'm not into all of that. I enjoy it. It's fun. I don't think I've ever seen him wrestle before. But if I got a chance to meet him, I'd be super excited.
Yeah,
The guy is ridiculously charismatic.
yeah, seems like a cool guy.
Yeah, his movies are fun. I've enjoyed quite a few. San Andreas is one of those ones that anytime it comes on, I will watch it. I don't care what I'm doing. I'll keep it on. It's a fantastic movie just for fun to watch because he's, in it, jumping over, off of bridges and taking boats into, 50-mile high, whatever you call them, tidal waves. Anyways,
Yeah, you didn't care that his supposed children were like holding their breath for 5 minutes underwater.
That's my favorite part. That is my absolute when Daddario, whatever her name is, when she's holding her breath and then dies, but then it comes back. It's just fantastic. I love it.
All right, I have one more question for you as it relates
Okay.
to the Grammys. We'll delve into this stuff every once and again, but I thought it was just great because you were watching it, and then when you invite, see what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pay attention this year. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to listen to these new albums that come out, and I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready because you and your wife won. She won the thing. You were in second, and then me and your daughters were all tied for third or tied for last, depending on how you want to see it.
Tied for third. We'll say tied for third. It was a tight race, man. It was back and forth. I took the lead, but then so album of the year, there were 5 of us in the pool. Album of the year, only one person scored because my youngest picked Harry Styles. You get 3 picks. If your number 1 pick hits, you get 3 points. Number 2 pick hits, you get 2 points. Number 3 pick hits, you get 1 point. She picked Harry Styles second. Everybody picked Beyonce for album of the year, but she picked Harry Styles second. Nobody else even touched Harry Styles.
Yeah, you thought Beyonce, Kendrick, or Adele. I thought Beyonce, Adele, Bad Bunny. Your wife thought Beyonce, Brandy Carlisle, Bad Bunny. So yeah, we were off, and Audrey. Wow, go for it, Audrey, man. She had Harry Styles in her number 2 slot.
Yeah, she also nailed the number 1. Her number 1 pick for best pop vocal album, which was Harry Styles, and then number 1 for best pop duo performance, which was Sam Smith and Kim. I just put Kim. I don't know her last name, but and you hated that song.
Oh God, I hated that song.
You hate Unholy. You put it 999.
I was very happy to see them win because of Kim Petras' speech. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that was a gigantic, and that's where I think if you pay attention this year and listen to more pop playlists, you'll know how gigantic of a song that was.
Yeah, I mean the twins, my twin stepsons, they knew the song. It's been out there and it's very popular. But I just liked Kim's speech about. The first, I think she said the first transgendered woman to win a Grammy or something like that. That was tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Grew up in Germany, and her mom always knew that she was a girl, even though she was born biologically a boy, and kind of urged her to be herself, which was awesome. And that song is super catchy song. I really enjoy it. I like the visuals.
You know what I don't like about
cool.
it? To me, like, because I remember Sam Smith from when he first started. I mean, did he win the Grammy for Best New Artist back in the day?
I believe so. Yeah, he won a couple of Grammys back in the day because he had a monster hit.
So my problem with Sam Smith historically, just his music is just a tad over the top sometimes. That's his personality. But when I hear the music, I think, okay, he's he can sing. He doesn't have to over sing, and sometimes I feel like he's over singing, but that's just my personal taste with his songs. Okay, last thing before we get out of here, I just wanted to ask you about the sorry, I lost my spot here. Okay, record of the year.
Yes.
So the night, I don't know if you could say anybody stole the night, because I think the awards were sort of spread out a lot. Lizzo wins with About Damn Time, and she has a fantastic speech. She looked like so happy, and then she had the comment about when she was in the 5th grade skipping school to go to the Beyonce concert, which I'm sure made Beyonce feel young. I mean, old.
Poor Beyonce. Yeah, when
Um,
she said that, I was like, no.
yeah.
Beyonce.
But so I had Lizzo in 3rd. You did not have Lizzo. Denise had Lizzo as 2nd, and neither of your kids had Lizzo in the top 3. So it was a
Right.
little bit of a surprise to win that award. And I don't know. I mean, I think Lizzo is like her. I think her music is solid. Like, I wouldn't say she's one of my favorite artists or anything, but her personality is just so infectious. And I don't know if like she has any opportunities to go beyond music, I know she hosted Saturday Night Live
Yeah, that was
earlier this year.
That was a really good show.
Yeah, and I know she was really good. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Lizzo before we get out of here. I thought that was a really nice moment for her, and pretty fantastic speech as well.
The kids absolutely love her. So that's why I'm shocked she wasn't more on there. Record of the year, by the way, is versus song of the year. Record of the year is the full production, everything
Right.
you can think of
Right.
about the song. Song of the year is just kind of the songwriting.
Yes.
But record of the year is the performance, the production, the writing, everything. I personally, I was telling the kids last night, I try to get into Lizzo. I like a couple of her songs,
Mhm.
but I'm just not that big of a fan, and I don't know why.
I'm pretty much there with you when it comes to her music. As her personality, I really like. I'm a fan of her person more so than her music.
Exactly, and I think that's where it comes for me. I think for me, I think her music is just a little too Pharrell happy. You know what I mean? Like that era of Pharrell, a little bit too happy, poppy, peppy. I like the Beyonce stuff, which is a little bit harder, a little bit I don't know, just a little more dramatic and everything. But yeah, like you said, that speech was so freaking cool. And if you get a chance to just, if you're listening, go to YouTube and just kind of watch the acceptance speeches, because that one was great. And the Harry Styles one was fantastic because they brought up they had this round table going out
Super
throughout the
fans, yeah.
super fans, and they were talking about the album of the year. And so the one who was trying to pump up and promote Harry Styles, this was his grandmother from Ontario, Canada, who's like his biggest fan. And so they actually brought her up on stage, and she got to announce Harry Styles as the winner. And he came running up and hugged her and just was all over her. It was so fun to see. But yeah, Lizzo, I think, kind of stole the show with the speech, because she, basically saying you could be anything you want to be, just be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we can all take, every day into our work, into our lives, with our families, with our friends. Just, be who you are. And so her message is fantastic. It's just, for some reason, her music for me is a little too, I don't know. I got to listen to it more is the thing. Like I told you, I'll listen to something 2 or 3 times before I go,
Yeah.
But the kids love her stuff. I know that for sure.
All right, we'll end on this, which is favorite performances. They ended with the DJ Khaled song. I don't know why how can you get credit for something when it's everybody else doing the work?
Everybody did the work, and he just came in and said DJ Khaled. I mean, that's what he does all the time, right?
Yeah. Jay-Z had Jay-Z was like rapped for like 4 straight minutes without breathing.
He was spitting for a while. I was like, my God, this is the only good part of the song. I mean, I love Wheezy too. And so Lil Wayne came out and did his part, but it was too short. It was like, it was over. And now Wheezy is still like entrenched in, what is it? The vocal, what's it called? Auto-tune.
Yeah.
I don't need the auto-tune.
The vocoder and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that was cool. But my 2 favorite performances, and one was the hip hop thing. But
that's my number one. Yeah.
What did you think about who they brought in for like the specific eras. There was no Tribe, but we got to see Queen Latifah and De La Soul. There was a little bit of the sort of the gangster era, but no like Bad Boy, Puff Daddy stuff that was like they kind of glossed over that. But it jumped from like I think Nelly came out in the early 2000s, and then it just jumped to like the present day almost. Maybe Too Short was in there, maybe. But I was like, oh yeah, because Jay-Z was going to be on later. But Kanye West dominated a lot of that time frame, and they're not going to even mention Kanye West's name. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But that was really fun, and you're just kind of one of those things where you're like, man, for the 15 minutes or whatever those people were on there, let's just all send them all on the road. Like I'll go. Let's do like a 4-hour concert. Like I'm in. Like first day, I'm buying tickets immediately.
Yeah, it was super cool. I really enjoyed it. But the same thing too. So I kept naming the people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm going, oh, that's De La Soul. They're like, who's that? I go, that's De La Soul. That's Buddy. I said, so maybe Queen Latifah's going to come out because I know she's there. No, she didn't come out. No Q-Tip didn't come out. And then Scarface was up there. Oh, that's Scarface.
Yep.
And then Ice-T. And then Queen Latifah comes out. Then they go Method Man, Big Boy, which was really cool. And I thought maybe we'll get Andre.
No,
we didn't get
Andre was like, nope.
No, he's like, I'm not done. That's not my thing anymore. Then Busta Rhymes stole the show.
Yeah.
With his super hardcore "Look at Me Now" rap.
Yeah.
Missy, that excited the kids because the kids are huge. Missy
she's up for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominee.
Yeah. So and then it went to all of a sudden Nelly, Too Short, and then after that I'm like, I don't know these guys.
Yeah. That's when I relied on the twins to tell me who these people were.
Exactly.
It's like, that's Lil Baby, and I was like, okay, he kind of looks like
Swizz
Russell
Beats.
Westbrook. Yeah. There was
Swizz Beats, Lil Baby, Glorilla, and Lil Uzi Vert.
Lil Uzi Vert was the last one. He only got to just like basically show his face, and then that was it.
Exactly.
The last thing though, what I was gonna say was when they do the in memoriam stuff.
Oh right.
Casey Musgraves was awesome. She has a great voice.
She's one of our favorites. Yeah.
Sheryl Crow and Bonnie Raitt, and then the Migos. And so that was really nice.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of forget because there's so many people of our era, of people who we know, the fame of us growing up, and they're just like, they're going now. Like this is like the thing. And I was like, wow. Olivia Newton-John, and then you're just going through and you're remembering everybody who passed away, and it was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that person passed away. And that's where, as we get older, where we're just like, oh my god, like this person was the biggest star in the world when I was like 14, so that's sad to see. And then but the Migos one, Takeoff, he just he was like they were in the apex of their careers, and he's gone.
Yeah, that was crazy. And again, watching those too, because even my oldest, she was like, Migo, he's gone. We're like, yeah, that, happened like not too long ago. But because like you said, you forget. David Crosby, I mean, I growing up, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Crosby, Stills and Nash. I was always so into that type of stuff, the harmonizing 70s and 60s vocals, Beach Boys, them, Beatles. So that it's just always hard to watch those too, because you're like, man, now I'm going to go back and listen to all of that music right now, because I'm sitting here watching them. I want to pay tribute to them myself. But yeah, those I always have a hard time with those.
Yeah. That was a sad note to end on, so I'll just make one more note, which was it was great to see Smokey Robinson and Stevie Wonder perform. Those
Stevie still got it. Man.
Those are living legends. Stevie, he's actually in better shape now than the last time I saw him live about, gosh, now it's been probably like 7 years, but
okay.
Yeah, he looks like he's in really good shape, and he was getting a little heavy the last time that I saw him, so it was great to see him. And man, Smokey is like timeless. Like this dude looks the same.
Oh yeah,
for the last 30 years.
So that was fun. To that.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of the darker skin for whatever reason.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for hanging out with us, even though we went Grammys on you for the last 10 minutes of this show. Yeah, so we'll be back next week on, I think it's either going to be Thursday or Friday. Brian and I will be back for the death lineup, and we're going to try and bring on our buddy Ben Cruz from The Ringer to talk about what the Warriors do or do not do at the deadline and all the teams around the trade deadline. And then on Sunday after the Super Bowl, Roderick and I are going to come back. It's not like we have a 49ers game to recap, unfortunately, but we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. We'll talk about some of the stuff that came out in the end of the season press conference with Kyle Shanahan just getting testy with people, man. He was like, are you sure you want to talk about this? Clips. Are you sure you want to talk about these injured quarterbacks and blaming it on me? Let me tell you something. So, yeah, Roderick and I will be back Sunday after the Super Bowl. So a couple more shows this week, and then Brad and I will be back on Monday. So for Brad, I'm Double G. Thanks also to Bri for coming in the first segment to talk about the FanFest. See you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.